Hey everyone, welcome back to Flesh and Bad. Today we're going to take a quick break from the Zen content to talk about Tegan's trip to Amsterdam. So Tegan was participating in the Pro Tour. And yeah, I just want to pass it over to Tegan. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm Aurora's partner. You've seen me a few times now in some of the videos where I've sat with her while she's played Zen. I play Kano a lot. It's my main deck, and it's what I brought to Amsterdam. And yeah, that's pretty much all there is about me. Any other questions about me?
Yeah, do you have any kind of Kano accolades?
Yeah, so I won a pro quest on Kano, which is how I got to Amsterdam. I also top aided Battle Hardened Seattle Tacoma on Kano. In fact, it was on this exact list. Um, I've been told I'm pretty good at him. I would hope so. It's the only deck that I play
Yep.
because I don't actually know how to play Flesh and Blood, just Kano.
Yep. Cool. Well, why don't we quickly maybe talk about your results for the weekend, just at kind of like a high level, like how did you do? How did you feel about it? That kind of thing.
Yeah, so I did not very well. I went 2-4 in Pro Tour, 2-2 in the Classic Constructed Day One, and then two losses in draft, and then dropped. I did the calling the next day, went 2-3. Head was not in it, and then I did the battle harden and went 2-2 and dropped because I was tired and wanted to pack. But
And that was LL, right?
that was LL,
Yeah.
which is funny, and we'll get to the story about
Yeah.
that later. But yeah, didn't do great. There is a number of factors as to why I didn't do great, and I'm not super thrilled about how I did. But this is like a learning video more than anything else, so can't all be winners.
Yeah. Well, why don't we quickly kind of like go over your deck list, if that's okay with you?
Yeah.
So anything. So let's. I mean, your equipment is pretty much like the normal Kano equipment.
Yep.
Like, basically, we have the kind of main equipment up here. So we have five, like the five you normally run, and then Tunic, Alluvian, Constella's, Waning Moon, and the sideboard. Anything remarkable about that at all?
No.
Yeah.
Like it's Kano equipment.
Yeah.
You run, I guess, like in heavy hitters, we ran Threadbare Tunic because the math worked better. Well, you can see it in my maybe board.
Yeah.
These are all things I was testing. Currently, with the way the deck operates, it's too awkward to use in a lot of situations. So Spellfire Cloak works better than it currently.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same stuff for basically everything. Use Tunic for when you're pitch stacking. Use Constella's in the mirror. You use Waning Moon for Illusionists and the mirror. And yeah, Kano equipment is really, really straightforward. There's almost never any spice.
Yeah. Okay, sure. Why don't we talk about kind of your main 60? Anything kind of to note here?
Yeah, so the in Kano, there's basic in the main 60, there's maybe like two slots that are like up to the player's preference. In those two slots for mine, it's Sonic Boom and the second potion of Deja Vu. Because I'm used to them. Most every Kano list, barring someone doing something really weird, looks very similar to this. You've got your red combo pieces, and then like Aether Spindle, and then you've got tomes, and then a bunch of blue cards with pots and eye.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty standard stuff. This is the 60 that you run into like 90% of matchups, pretty much. It's the sideboarding where the deck kind of gets a little bit weird.
Yeah. So I think a lot of these cards I think are pretty stock standard. Like you have your Blazing Aethers, your Wildfires, your Spindles, your Flares, etc. Why don't you talk us through, I guess, like some of your kind of odd, like not necessarily odd choices, but like your cards that are kind of more on the fringes. So like Cindering Foresight, Sonic Boom, that kind of thing.
Yeah, you should run Cindering Foresight if you're Kano. In some ways, it's Kindle's 4 and 5.
Yeah.
You lose resources by playing it, but occasionally, if you've Cindering an Arsenal, you play it, and then you see 3 cards on top of your deck, and then you win the game.
Mhm.
It's a card that I don't like to have more than 2 of because it gets really awkward, especially if you draw 2 of them. And it blocks for 2, which is below rate for Kano cards. Wizard cards, by and large, block 3.
Right.
So running 2 of those. The other weird one is Sonic Boom. Most Kanos are off of Sonic Boom. I like the card. It's probably not optimal, but I'm very comfortable with it. It blocks 3. When you're stacking, it's an amazing card, and sometimes you banish it off a Kano, and then on the combo turn, it just wins you the game by letting you go 1 extra card wide. So that is like why that's in there, just a comfort thing.
So why don't you like Sonic Boom out of curiosity? Or like why don't most people like Sonic Boom?
The cost is awkward.
Yeah.
And you've got more bricks in the deck now with Kindle. You've got 4 like actual
4 hard
hard whiffs.
Yeah.
Then you've got
a bunch of soft whiffs too.
Yeah, you've got 8 more soft whiffs in the form of Tomify and all on the potions.
Yeah.
So 12, like a fifth of your deck whiffs off a Sonic Boom.
Yeah.
And then also there's a bunch of
not ideal cards.
0 for 1s.
Yeah, 0 for 1s. Yeah.
But alternatively, like, I don't know what else I put in there. Like a third debot, probably not.
Yeah.
It's even worse.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a comfort thing.
Sure.
So that's why. It, like, saying this out loud, I'm realizing how much worse it is on paper than it is in my head. But no, I just like the card.
Okay, well, we'll come back to like what you would maybe replace with Sonic Boom later. But why don't we quickly kind of just go over like the blue list or like the blue kind of stuff. Like obviously Kindle version of Kano tends to like more like Aether Dart, Aether Arc, like 0 for 1s basically. Yeah, basically you're kind of like zap cards. And then you also have like 1 for 2s in the form of Quickening and Scalding Rain.
That's the best rate in the deck.
Yeah, the best rate in the deck.
So bad.
And then you also have
so bad.
Then you also have blue flares, obviously like a pretty strong effect, especially like it's an okay effect on the wildfire turn, right?
Oh, it's an incredible effect on the wildfire turn. Like little tangent, but blue flare is like only 2 damage worse than red flare on the wildfire turn.
Yeah, pretty much.
Sometimes, especially if your wildfire hits for a bunch and then you have like a middle piece and then you hit blue flare, it's like, okay, cool, game over.
Yeah.
Because it's adding the whole damage of that card on top of the next thing, and then wildfire is adding it. So really good blue. Bad random banish. Really bad random banish.
Off Sonic, yeah.
Or just in general, like if you have Kano on your turn. But yeah, like great card.
Yeah, and I mean, it's at its floor, it's a blue 3 block. Like, can't be that upset about it. Maybe, do you want to talk about kind of some of why these cards are kind of like in the maybe board? Like, I know blue Spindle is pretty popular among some people, like blue Emeritus.
Because they're bad.
But like, what makes them bad?
Okay, so the blue 2s are really bad in the Kindle version of Kano.
Yeah.
You want 15 0 for 1s, which is like one of the weirdest things that you're ever going to hear about in Flesh and Blood.
So your zap effects, right?
Yeah, your zap effects. And zap is terrible.
Yeah.
But you kind of need it because you want to go wider with your wildfire turn. Go back to the maybes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The blue 2 cost 2. So on the actual like go off turn, you basically go less wide, because if you hit like an Emeritus on it, you're now spending 2 on this card that is dealing 4 damage, whereas you could spend 1 more hit another zap, and then have the zap come in for like however much wildfire did +1, which is better. So the numbers are just bad. It's they used to be a lot better in heavy when you really needed to send ship in, but they're just too expensive.
Yeah.
What other ones are on there?
Voltics.
Well, same thing with Emeritus.
Yeah.
Blue Spindle's always been bad.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
Yeah.
It doesn't do enough. They can AB3 it. Foreboding Bolt is the unconditional opt is cool, but it's just bad numbers.
Yeah, very bad numbers.
Like only it costs 0.
Yeah.
And then what other stuff? So there's the third Cindering, which I don't like.
Do you want to talk about Snapback? Because I think when we were doing a lot of testing, especially like early on in some of the videos of the channel, this card was not very good in our kind of testing.
I likened this card, or playing this card with Kindle is like walking around with your shoelaces tied together.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really good card. It's banned in Blitz, just like as part of its bona fides, right? So like I don't think it's a bad card, but with Kindle, it's a really awkward card because you can because of the way amp works, basically. Yeah. So like if you have that in your hand and a wildfire, you need to play Snapback before the wildfire somehow, which is awkward because of how Snapback works, because you don't want amp to apply to Snapback and you want the wildfire to hit before the Snapback. So it's just a really awkward card because I was trying to run it main deck.
Right.
The logic was if I can run it main deck, it's really good into Enigma, but it's just too awkward with Kindle.
Yeah.
Like I don't think that you should run that card basically if you're playing this version of Kano. It just leads to too many games that you could have won if only you didn't have a really awkward red one cost in your hand. But yeah, what other ones are in the maybe? I wish Snapback was better.
Your 1-for-4s.
These are the ones I regret most not running. That actually I'll get into when I talk about the actual sideboard because I feel like I should have run those.
Okay. Well, why don't we go into the sideboard and then we can maybe talk about like changes you would maybe make to the list after.
Sure.
So sideboarding looks like we have Oasis and Sink Below. Do you want to kind of quickly talk about what those matchups or what these are for basically?
Yeah, those are to stack people. It's not this as prevalent as heavy hitters was with stacking. And heavy hitters, people were trying to stack everything. Right. People were trying to stack brutes, and some people were doing it. Yeah. But the 5 defensive cards here, just sinks into Oasises, let you stack basically the vast majority of just things like Warrior, Guardian, like Azuri. These, it's more than enough. It'll get you to second cycle without a care in the world. Mm-hmm. Similarly, for new, which is another stack matchup, you run 2 snacks. I've seen a few lists run 3, but my logic is what you really need snag for is bonds.
Right.
And into Kano, I think new is good for about like 1 to 2 bonds and not 3.
Yeah.
And you're going to see your whole deck before you get to second cycle.
Right.
So the first snag you see, you just go and park it in the arsenal. She does not deal enough damage to pressure you, and you just go snag on the bond's turn and call it a day. Get to your stack and kill her. You run that in addition to the 6 Oasises. So yeah, it's stack matchups basically.
Do you think you need the snags against new?
Yeah.
You think so?
I think so.
Matchup?
It just so like it makes it like a basically 100% matchup. If you play them into new, like the big issue with getting hit with bonds is just like it ruins your stack, and then you have to
Right.
restart the stack. And like that's not horrible. Like you can do that. You're probably going to have enough time to do it.
Yeah.
But mentally, it's really taxing because you have to flush out your memory of what the stack was and then restart doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't have to do that, if you can just play this, and it's blue, that's the best part. So if you need to pitch it, it's great underneath the tome.
Yep.
Yeah, you can just play this and not have that happen to you, and then get the stack extremely consistently.
Mm-hmm. Now, why don't you walk us through kind of the Wounded Bulls and the Scours? Who are those for?
The Wounded Bulls are for Enigma in the Mirror, and the Wounded Bulls were very good into Enigma. I did not win a single game into Enigma, though. More on that later.
Yeah.
Scour is also for Enigma, and I probably shouldn't have run them.
Mm-hmm.
It was a hedge more than anything else. I got super paranoid after I saw that Ray Adams like misfilled draft chaff list, and where it had all the like zero cost auras, and I was like, oh no, if someone brings that and I'm paranoid, I want Scour.
Right.
And then the ones I played against didn't have that.
Right.
So Scour was like
not very useful.
I think I was able to like take care of like 2 auras with it when I played it each time.
That's
so like
pretty good.
It's not great.
Mm-hmm.
It could have been a lot better. This is where I really feel like maybe I should have brought the 1-for-4s.
Okay.
Because they do the same thing. Just
right.
They get over the AB of Enigma and are good damage, and they're really good in the mirror.
Yeah.
But Wounded Bull's good. I'm a Wounded Bull truther.
Yeah.
But that's basically the sideboard. You play the same 60 into basically everything. So like the sideboard's like making it so that you don't just like lose horribly into stack matchups and illusionist.
Yeah.
But yeah, like pretty straightforward deck construction. I think this is the exact list I brought to Battle Hardened.
Yeah.
So after changing it a bunch, hitting right back up where we we started.
Well, yeah, we have kind of like the sideboard guide here. We're gonna post the list alongside the video if anyone wants to kind of like go over Tegan's choices and like how they sideboard this list. I think for any aspiring Kanos, this will be a pretty good video.
I'll fix the sideboard as well.
Are some of them broken?
Some are broken. Like if you do like so like.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you can fix it afterwards.
I'll fix it afterwards. It's it's not a big deal.
Okay. But why don't we quickly, I guess, go into, like, at a high level, like, I guess, what are you trying to target by bringing Kano to Pro Tour Amsterdam? Like, who are you trying to beat, and, like, what decks are you afraid of as Kano? Like, what are your good and bad matchups, I guess?
So, I brought Kano to Pro Tour Amsterdam because I figured that I would pair into nothing but Zens and News the entire tournament, and then maybe the occasional, like, Victor or Azalea. My logic was that no one else was going to bring, or is that Enigma would be like way underrepresented because of Zen being overrepresented, and I figured that no one would actually, other than the most diehard Kanos, want to bring Kano to the Pro Tour because he's got such a high variance to him now.
Right.
And then Enigma was more represented than I thought. And then I also got paired into Kanos multiple times. So I kind of, like, I didn't see the matchups that I really wanted to see and saw the ones I didn't want to see.
And then what is your, I think, worst matchup out of, like, the Pro Tour results that weekend? Like, what do you think are, like, some of the tougher ones? So
the worst possible thing that can happen is you get paired into Prism.
Yeah.
It's like 95-5. I have a friend, we have a friend who says that it's close to 70-30. He's huffing gas or something.
Yeah.
It's so bad. You need to basically like go first,
and then kill them.
see your wildfire, play out a potion, immediately kill them because they've tapped out.
Yeah.
Which incidentally happened at a side event with me.
Yeah. Was that the LL?
No, I don't think there's a way I could beat Prism and LL with this
Right.
list.
That's right.
But it was just a Null Runes Classic Constructed side event.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I got paired round 1 into Prism, who tapped out and thought it was fine, and then I sent like 2 wildfires into like a flare and a blazing and drew a bunch of cards off a tome. It was great. It was so much fun.
Yeah.
I've never been. It was the highlight of the weekend was beating this poor Prism. So shouts out to you, Guy, for making me feel a lot better after my Pro Tour performance.
Yeah.
So that's the worst possible thing that you can see. You also don't want to see the mirror.
Unless you're good at the mirror.
Unless you're really good at the mirror. I'm not great at the mirror. The Kano I played against in the Pro Tour was the guy who won the Calling Warsaw on Kano, which was like not great. And it was kind of close, but I definitely misplayed. But yeah, it's those are like the 2 that I really don't want to see because they're like you don't have a bad matchup into Kano, but like it's hard and it feels like whenever you play against Kano, it's like who makes a huge mistake first. And then Prism's just awful, but he's got really good matchups, or at least like fine matchups into most of the cast right now. Yeah. Like Dash IO and OG Dash can be tricky, but like I somehow have a lot of experience playing into Dash IO. And then Katsu, which was not played.
Not played at the Pro
Katsu's actually probably way easier now that he plays 3 bonds.
Yeah.
Thanks, Zen. But yeah.
Speaking of Zen, I guess, like, how do you feel about this list in Zen? Do you think it's, like, favored for you? Do you think it's roughly 50-50? Like...
So this is interesting. So when Zen was first released and people were doing all of the bonds
like
stuff,
I was, right?
Yeah, like you were. It felt like it was 90-10 for Kano. Just like a brutal, like terrible matchup for Zen.
Yeah. Because you have to run all these like bonds in your deck that like don't naturally have go again, so you can brick really hard, right?
Yeah, and your Mask of the Pouncing Lynx doesn't do a ton. It gets, I guess, blue bonds, but does it get blue bonds?
Yeah.
Okay.
It did get blue bonds.
It did get blue bonds. You end up having this really weird clunky deck when you don't have the fridge.
Right.
Like that's the best part of playing Kano into Zen is he doesn't have the thing that is objectively the strongest part about Zen, which is the traverse the universe in strides. So it used to be amazing. It used to be 90-10. And then the bond span happened, and it's gotten a lot closer because you've had to diversify what your deck does.
Yeah. Right.
So you just have a lot more go again and other stuff. I still think it's Kano favored. Like, it doesn't seem like there's a general consensus on how to tech for Kano as Zen.
Well, I think we saw like some people almost reach a consensus at the Pro Tour. So we had like a lot of people running.
Is it AB2 Spellboy?
Yeah, like AB2 Spellboy 2. So like this kind of configuration. Do you think this is like the best configuration in Kano? Do you think that this is potentially scary or like problematic for Kano? What do you think?
This is about, I think, as good as it gets into Kano. Yeah. Sometimes it completely blows them out. Other times it's actually just not enough to get over the crazy big wildfires that Kano can send now. I think Nathan Crawford on stream once said that this matchup is dependent on the top 15 cards of Kano's deck and who wins the die roll. Yeah. And it's very much whoever wins the die roll is insanely favored. And
when you say you win the die roll, you want to go first, ideally, right, as Kano?
Yeah, because unless Zen has double transcend, and even if he does have double transcend, you just activate Kano a bunch of times, dig for your wildfire and your Kindle, play out a potion, don't let Zen filter his hand, then pass the turn, and then sometimes his hands are like, oh, I have a bunch of
Right.
terrible non-go against stuff, or
Yeah.
a bunch of reds, and I'll pitch 2 reds to bonds and then die. So
Yeah.
that can happen.
Yeah, likewise, that's kind of why we as Zen want to go first, so that we can filter our hand, and then like Tegan
Mhm.
obviously gets to mostly block out, right? You get to block
Mhm.
out his Kano, but
Like, I'm always going to filter my hand as Kano.
yeah, you're always going to filter your hand as Kano. So there's a lot of advantage to at least getting our filtering, so we can ideally try to see power cards or transcend or whatever. Right?
But yeah, but like basically this is like I think as good as it's gonna get into Kano for Zen at this
So
point.
do you think this configuration right here, do you think this is like roughly 50-50 in the Zen, or do you think it's like still slightly like unfavored for Zen?
I like am somehow still huffing Kano Copium, so I still think it's Kano favored.
Yeah.
But like Zen being a more consistent deck,
Yeah.
it is what it is. I think this gives him like the best play into Kano without devoting a bunch of weird slots like Oasis's, or like just weird Salt the Wound. Salt the Wound's really good into Kano.
It is really good, but I don't know. Like,
it's probably better than this, but this just gives you more space.
Yeah, it gives you more sideboard slots, which is I think the big draw to this
like
kind of configuration.
4 slots instead of 5.
What do you think about AB2 versus like AB3? This is talking about Zen now, I guess, but like,
I mean, why not?
sure, yeah.
Like, I think AB2 Spellvoid 2 is probably better than AB3 Spellvoid 1 because, like, it allows you to go shields down a bit more, while also making it so that if you really do want an Arcane Barrier on like Aether Spindle or Aether Flare, it's like an amount that's not negligible.
Right.
AB1 might as well be AB0 into Aether Spindle Red.
Right.
Like opting 4 is not much worse than opting 5, but opting 3 is definitely worse than 4.
Right. I think the main downside again about AB2 is obviously like turn 0. If Kano goes first, they send a red Spindle at you. You can only prevent 2 of it, right? So that's not ideal. But like every other turn of the game outside turn 1, I think AB2 Spellvoid 2 is obviously better, right?
Yeah, pretty much. It just means you can go wider on your turn because you're always going to get guaranteed be able to block 2 wildfire damage. And each wildfire damage deals about 5 points of damage, depending on how long not chain, I guess, but how wide the spells go.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to like tap out more is better.
I also just brought up this kind of like new deck list just to kind of like talk about like what new's game plan into Kano is, right? Like they basically have no AB. A lot of them are running no AB or very little AB.
A number of them are running no AB.
Was that list not even on any Oasis? I didn't check.
Probably not. No, they're not.
No Oasis either. Oh, sorry, the Sigil. Never mind.
Yep. So the second new match of the Pro Tour I played into a new who was on AB0 with no Oasis. And I talked to him about it, and his logic was basically that...
this one's on AB2.
Yeah. His logic was the matchup is so unbelievably bad that you just dodge it, and if you get paired into it, you just hope that you can beat him down.
Mm-hmm. This one's on AB3, so it seems like, AB3 and 2 Oasis. So.
Yeah. So that list is why you pitch stack, because they
never know. Right?
They can't do anything about it. Interestingly enough, if you... so the way I play into new as Kano is I always board for pitch stacking, because you don't know... Like, you cannot just assume that they're going to be on AB0.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're not, then and they're on like the AB3 and 2 Oasis, then tempoing gets really awkward with the amount of disruption. So you always just set it for stack. And then if you see that they flip AB0, you still just work on stacking because you now have like a fifth of your deck as whiffs. So you need to like not try and pivot. Or you play until you get depot and then pivot, which is what I did. But yeah, new is extremely extremely good for Kano to see. They can't do much, and when I see them running AB0, like, I think that's right. Just dodge the stupid Kano matchup.
Yeah. So why don't we go back to kind of like your results for the weekend? So we kind of like briefly touched on like you didn't do well. Like what were your kind of like pairings? And then I guess do you want to talk about let's first talk about like Cossack Constructed. What were your pairings and like how did you feel about certain games and that kind of thing?
Yeah, so round one got paired into an Enigma. Not who I want to see round one. I don't have a ton of experience in the matchup, and I was kind of hoping that they'd all stay home or play a different deck, and I got really, really close. I was one resource off. It was exactly one resource off. I had one more. It was like a crazy turn. Like I did like 15 Kano activations, drew a ton of cards.
Right.
But one off, and then lost that one. Immediately tilted. Game 2, paired to a new, felt a lot better. Game 3, the mirror, tilted again. Yeah, not confident. Lost because I misplayed and like went too low in life total. Tilted again, played into another new. Right back up the confidence level because it's very
very back and forth.
It'd be cool if I got 4 news. That would have been like
awesome.
I'd be like great, undefeated. Day 2 right away.
So 2 and 2 in the first CC event.
So not feeling good.
And then why don't we talk quickly about the calling, which you also participated in, right?
Yeah, I went 2 and 3.
So any special things to remark about any of those games?
Is that I suck. I clutch defeat from the jaws of victory round 1 into a Riptide, which is like, on paper I should win that like 90% of the time, but I was still tilted from my PT performance and exhausted from jet lag, and then lost, which tilted me the rest of the time. Then I won into a Levia, and then I think I won into I beat a Zen. Yeah, I beat a Zen. And then lost into a Kano, who was playing a stack plan into me, and then got paired into Iris Prism. Or not Iris Prism.
Iris Enigma.
Iris Enigma.
Yeah.
Which is like really bad, and like I have no idea what to do into that.
You're 2 and 2 at this point. Or you're 2 and 1 and 3 at this point?
I was 2 and 3 at that point, and then I dropped to go try and do some side events. And then I played the Battle Hardened the next day, against my better judgment with this list.
Oh, same list for LL basically, right?
Yeah, I made some quick adjustments. I didn't have very many cards with me that I could have swapped, so I cut the Oasises and Snags, and added in a third Scour, and then 3 red Voltic Bolts, because I didn't have anything else.
Sure.
I shouldn't have. That's not what you play in LL. Like, you definitely play something else. But I did not plan on going to the LL Battle Hardened. And then I proceeded to win like the first 2 games like handily. Then got really stupid into Oldham round 3, and then got really close into an Icelander and just punted.
Yeah.
And at that point I realized like, oh, my head's just like not in the competing space for this weekend. I've been tilted all weekend, and like I'm losing to myself more than anything else. So I'm gonna go to the hotel and pack, and that's what I did. It was a fun weekend, but it was disappointing.
Yeah, for sure.
I would have done a lot of things different.
So why don't we? So we'll touch on like I guess what you might have wanted to do differently, or like what people should do to like prep for a big PT event. But why don't you talk quickly, I guess, about like the draft portion of the Pro Tour and like how you did, what you tried to draft, and like what your strategy was going into it.
Yeah, so I was pretty confident about draft, and then I lost the 2 games that I played of it. My like I had been practicing draft a lot up until that point on the Runaways server,
Mm-hmm.
and then in paper, and then like the night before did a draft in paper with just a bunch of people from who were there for the Pro Tour. I was feeling pretty good about it. I did the just draft Mystic strategy, where you just take all of the blue Mystic cards like Spillover, Rising Tide, etc., and a bunch of Pathwell Travels, and you make this deck where you have a bunch of blues and they come in with the rate of reds, and you just have huge turns.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really strong way to draft because you can stay open super late, and I was able to do it. I was like, oh hell yeah, this is gonna be great. And then I misplayed round one. Just like I think I arsenaled the wrong card.
Right.
When I like should have blocked with it, and vice versa. And then because I lost round one, I got paired into the only other new in the pod.
Yeah.
And as you can imagine, if
Drafting the Mystic deck.
if you've drafted a Mystic deck of all blues, it can get really bad really quickly.
Yeah.
So that is what happened, and then I dropped. So
Yeah.
Overall, very disappointed. I think I drafted correctly, but just play wise, I was still tilted.
Yeah.
I was tilted all weekend.
Yeah. Yeah. So why don't you quickly, I guess, so like we've kind of had to discuss your results, and like, there's obviously some things that either between the list and your gameplay you might have been able to improve upon. Do you want to kind of like quickly give us like a couple ideas for maybe other people who are going to the Pro Tour, like what they can improve upon, what they can do to practice, and like how they can avoid like some of the kind of mental stuff that you had going on?
Yeah, so I think the most important thing if you're going to a big event like a Pro Tour is to not bring Kano. I'm kidding. The most important thing, I guess, is to like practice your matchups that are bad. Like not like bad to the point like if you're a Teklo main, don't just like pair into Kano over and over and expect that you're going to get better at that matchup.
Yeah. But like you're winnable, like Enigma and Kano are definitely like
the ones that are like 50-50 and are very skill based. Right. This Kano deck right now, and like the thing that I don't like about it, and I don't here's like there's a reason I don't think you should bring this list to a big tournament like that at this point. Is it is an extremely high variance deck.
Right.
In my opinion, this is a stronger deck than Zen is. It has an even more uninteractable, just complete bullshit, can push a ton of damage through turn, and doesn't have to do it more than once, like Zen sometimes needs to do. And the damage is even less blockable. But the problem is it's not consistent at all. Like sometimes it works perfectly and you see your wildfires early and your Kindles draw blues and you hit your reds and it's amazing. And then other times your deck just has you draw all of your reds and banish all of your blue zaps. And that happened in multiple games over the weekend. And that's really rough. And because of that, the deck gets worse the more games you have to play. Yeah. If you're playing in like a 5-round tournament with a cut to top 8, this is great. Like you can easily win 5 games, especially if like you get paired into like new, because there's no variance there. But if you're doing the main Kindle plan for 8 games of Classic Constructed across 2 days with a draft portion, it's so hard to make top 8. Yeah. So I probably wouldn't bring this kind of deck to an event like this next time. As much as it like pains me to say it, because I really love Kano. But yeah, like that's a big one.
So overall, like other like non-deck factors, like what would you have done to practice differently, or like what would you, I guess, mindset wise, like what would you have changed?
Practice wise, I would have practiced Classic Constructed into Kano and Enigma.
Yeah.
And into Prism as well, even though it's bad.
Yeah.
Just having the reps in these matchups so that you can squeeze a little bit of advantage is really important.
Do you have difficulty practicing on Kano?
Yeah, I do. I have a lot of difficulty practicing on Kano.
Yeah. Do you want to go into why that is?
It's because I think if you're Kano is unique in that if you're playing on Talishar, it's usually not great practice. I have a lot of trouble playing on Talishar because seeing like the number of cards in the deck as like digits actually kind of throws me off. And it's harder for me to like visualize it. Having cards in paper helps immensely for counting out resources and stuff. But the big reason I don't like playing on Talishar with Kano is you'll either pair into someone who will leave immediately because they don't want to play against Kano, or you make a lobby and then someone sees that you're Kano, especially if you just make like regular non-request and do, and then they'll pair into you with a really weird deck full of oases and other stupid stuff where it's like, this isn't what you play. Like, you're doing this because you just see Kano.
Right.
So I don't like to play him on Talishar that much. I don't find it amazing practice. I really like playing in person, especially with you, or with people I know on Talishar. But and then the other thing with Talishar is you don't get to play into like the best Kanos and the best Enigmas,
Right.
or like the people that you really want to practice into, if they're just randos.
Yeah.
But that's what I would have practiced more, just these big ones with people who I know are good at the hero. Then what is it, mindset?
Yeah. Just like about like tilt and like, travel fatigue and like jet lag, I guess. Like
Tilt's hard. I need to figure out how to not get tilted. When you lose round one, it's really discouraging. Especially if you're like, oh yeah, I feel like I just need to not pair into this and I'll be good, and then I'll get past round one and then start getting paired into like the stuff that I'm ready for, like the decks that I expect would convert well. I feel like this deck plays well into decks that convert well.
Yeah.
But if you lose round one, you're not going to get paired into that. You're
right. You get paired into things that didn't convert well,
which you ironically have a worse time.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
So yeah, like there's that. I don't know how to like. I really need to mentally work on just not getting tilted about stuff like that.
Yeah.
Traveling alone did not help either. You couldn't get your passport, so we couldn't go together. But it's weird traveling by yourself. You don't have someone there to do stuff with, so everything you kind of just have to take the initiative on, and it's really strange, and you feel super awkward when you go on like a tour of a museum by yourself in part of a group and everyone's there with their like partner or someone, and you're just like, oh, this is a cool painting.
Yeah.
And then jet lag and fatigue. I don't know what I could have done about this.
Yeah. We got there pretty early.
I did get there pretty early, and by the time Pro Tour rolled around, I was like kind of adjusted. But I read like it takes about, for every hour that you are different in a time zone, it takes about a day to acclimate. So by the time Pro Tour rolled around, I was like, I think like still like 4-ish hours like this, unacclimated. So like really weird. There's also a lot to say about like having to eat out all the time.
Like, no home cooked meals.
No home cooked meals.
At home.
You are less healthy when you're going out to eat. Like I don't know. There's just like a lot of factors that contributed to like I'm not feeling great. The day of the calling, actually, I had a horrible migraine.
Yeah.
Which is like just a chronic thing I deal with, and so that's why I like did really poorly immediately. But yeah, my recommendation for if you travel far out to one of these things is to really plan the trip and like try and eat healthy and drink like a lot of water. I know that's like cliche,
Yeah.
uh, but it definitely helps. And go with someone. Don't go by yourself.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot to be said about like having a support network for playing in a big event like this. Um, as it was, I had like a couple people who were local to the area who were there, but
Yeah.
like um, I'm not hanging out with them all the time. So like if you can go with someone who you like a lot, do that instead. When we went to Battle Hardened Seattle Tacoma,
Yeah.
I top aided, and then you won the PQ Plus the next day.
Yep.
And I don't think I would have top aided without like the support of people I knew.
Yeah.
So yeah, so like that sort of matters. Make sure that you have people you care about, and like you aren't subsisting off of junk food the entire time.
Well, anyways, do you want to try to wrap it up here?
Sure, that would be great.
So, any final thoughts on Kano, the PT? I guess what you have planned in the future, that kind of thing.
I still really like the deck. It's a ton of fun to play. If you haven't given him a try, I think you should. He's like super fun. Would I bring him again to Pro Tour? Unless like the deck gets somehow more consistent, which would be great for me and bad for everyone else.
What would you play instead, out of curiosity?
I should have brought like New or Zen.
Yeah.
Or I guess a Zuri. Zuri won.
One of the 3 heroes you're allowed to play.
I don't know. I would have probably brought something that was consistent, that targeted Zen and was consistent. So probably New. I don't want to play like the targeted deck. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
I think targeting in the meta is better.
Yeah.
So probably would have brought that. I'm gonna play Kano for a bit more. I'm excited for Rosetta. They're finally releasing new wizards. I think Acilio is gonna be really good. You can tell because he has 36 health.
Yeah. Gotta be good hero.
Yeah. You can tell Verdance is gonna be fucking awful because she's got 40 health. Yeah, you've got the Marvel version on.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think Aurora's gonna be really good in a very
yeah.
boring way because she can just like send a bunch of attacks.
Hopefully that means she's the best one.
I don't know about Florian. Florian could be either like really good or really bad.
Yeah.
Anyways,
I don't want to get like too deep into that stuff.
But
that might be another video.
Gonna play that. We're talking about going to Battle Hardened San Diego.
Yeah, potentially.
Oh, I want to do a quick shout out. A bunch of people recognized me, or at least like 3 or 4, at the Pro Tour, and they're like, "Do I know you from somewhere?" I'm like, "I don't know.
Maybe.
You sound European, so probably not." And they're like, "No, I've definitely seen you in like a YouTube video." And I'm like, "Was it like Aurora's Zen videos?" And they're like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Oh, cool." So shouts out to you who recognized me from the Aurora videos. Thanks for watching. Like, it's cool that there's an audience for this.
Yeah.
Shouts out to a lot of the people I met at Pro Tour. I will say this: everyone was very nice, and I had a lovely experience with everyone that I met and got to talk to, and it's a really cool community.
Awesome. Well, I think we're probably going to wrap it up here. Again, I hope you all enjoyed this kind of like Kano debrief. And we will post Tegan's deck. Let me go back to it. This one. We'll post Tegan's deck in the description if anyone wants to play around with it. We'll also maybe make like an amended version of like if you make any card choice like cuts or whatever.
I'll fix the matchups for you as well. If you do want to play this thing on Talishar, cool.
Yeah.
It mean that there's some Talishar results for these.
Yeah, currently there are none.
Yep. Don't bring this to a 2-day professional event. It's too inconsistent.
Yeah. Maybe post Senban. This will be a lot better.
Bring this to your armory. People
bring-
love you.
Oh,
to
people
your armory.
love, yeah,
People
Kano.
love playing Kano in Armory.
Just like they love playing in Zen Armory.
Oh, yeah.
Those are like the most fun
Yeah.
heroes to play into new players in Armory.
Yeah, it was you and I like either win or get second place every Armory now.
Yeah, we have an excellent grift going with our local armories,
So good.
where we get the score credit by getting first place.
So good. It's just farmeries.
No, that's kind of mean though.
Yeah,
I'll
I'll fix the matchups on this. So if you are interested at all in playing Kano, you can. We will do more tournaments. There's going to be more Aurora Zen content. I'm going to do like a video series that's something a little different for the channel. I'm not going to go into it at some point. And yeah, that's pretty much all I got.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you all for watching. Again, I hope you all enjoyed Tegan's tournament report, and we'll see you all next time.
Can all be winners.
Can't all be winners.
Can all be winners.
All right, thank you all.
Bye.